Hey guys, welcome. I'm Kune from 2X eCommerce, and what I wanted to talk about today were necessary steps you need to take as an e-retailer in the wake of COVID-19, the COVID-19 crisis we're at, which will most definitely, come through eventually. So I have 7 to 8 points all listed here. And they are, I've interviewed, I think, about 7 experts in e-commerce over the last, few days. I've had 2 expert panels in which, 6 people were there. Interviewed another, expert yesterday. And I think I have come, and along with consultation with some of the clients I advise with, I have come with a list of really solid actions you should be taking if you haven't taken in the wake of this crisis. So I'm going to start out with action number 1. Action number 1 is pretty straightforward. Be safe. When I mean be safe, health is important. Ensure the safety of you and your team. That's paramount. Your partners, whoever you work with. If you can't take care of you, you can't take care of your team, how do you take care of the market, of your customers? So first things first, be safe. It's pretty obvious. Point 2 is assess your supply chain and all your delivery partners. Now, what you want to do is take a very agile approach and ensure that on a regular basis, communications are open between you and your logistics and supply chain partners, so you kind of understand exactly what their capabilities are. Now it gets a bit complex if you're selling globally, but if you're selling locally, there is a better understanding nationally. Rather, there's a better understanding of states or locations you can deliver to, and there's better feedback, and you're able to get that information, keep that information, and update your customers on a regular basis yourself. Take for instance, if a certain region in your country is potentially in a lockdown. There is essentially you need to inform your customers. You have to inform your customers about the fact that there is a near impossibility of getting things through, number 1, or or it's going to be significantly delayed. Okay, and the delays could be anything from days to months, as we saw in Wuhan in China. So really keep that line of communication with your supply chain. Whether you're running a 3PL, with the 3PL it gets a bit complex because all of your stock is with a logistics company, and they're likely shipping on your behalf through their partners. So there's like a 2-chain line of command, or 2-chain line of communication rather, you will need to figure out. Most important thing is get that clarity that goods that are ordered on your site will get delivered, and communicate these times almost immediately to your customers. So get that grasp of your supply chain. Second is government will still want e-commerce to function in a certain way. So depending on how shall I say how serious the situation is at your location, if it's not necessarily serious where there's an entire lockdown, e-commerce, logistics, deliveries are they would be the lifeline of commerce, because stores will be closed, and people will want to order things. Obviously, non-essential luxury products right now are going to take a significant hit. But if you are selling, consumables, you're selling essentials, then ultimately you need to have a lot of your, you will need to essentially keep operating in some way, shape or form. That leads into complexities about, the fulfillment bit, which is very physically oriented. And we're going to talk about that later. But, one thing to understand is government will want e-commerce, operations to function. A lot of e-commerce, not all, but a lot of e-commerce, and most governments will support, what your initiatives essentially. Third is write to your customers immediately. If you haven't already, if you don't have a COVID statement, I'm sorry, it's a little too late, but it's never too late in that sense. I've just contradicted myself. But what I mean is that if you have not communicated with your customers, do it right away. Be open, and I think now is a golden opportunity for a lot of brands to be human. This is the time to really show that you're human, open up your vulnerabilities, be honest, and show that essentially you care. You're humans behind the scenes. Shoot a video, show them what's going on, at the back end. A lot of people hold back on videos. Do a video. Write an email at the barest minimum, and don't stop at just that one email, because if things change at your supply chain, your customers need to know. Okay. My other point is organize remote working. So if you look at your operations, for instance, you will have customer services. Your customer services team. You're going to have your core operations team. You're going to have your marketing and sales team. Sometimes you outsource a bit of those functions to agencies, and you're going to have your warehousing team. You'd also have your product development, in which is also engulfed in your operations team. Besides your warehouse team, I don't see any other role or any other functions in your business that that cannot work remotely. If you haven't already, there are a number of tools that will allow you. If you're concerned about access to files and on your server, you should have Dropbox at the barest minimum. There's the Microsoft suite of I think it's called Azure. I think the Microsoft has a suite. You can get that immediately. Google has a suite. I don't really like the Google one. So if it's in regards to file access, there are a lot of service providers. If you're concerned about security, you should sort out VPNs. Most apps are on the cloud. There's no better time, as much as this is a very sad situation as to what is happening. There's a silver lining to actually start to think about remote working across the globe. So you really want to think about how you're going to get all your non-warehouse or supply chain functions to work remotely. And even within the warehousing, there might be a few roles that can be that can suit remote working. So there is no option there. Next thing is communicate with your 3PL partners. So if you're doing third-party logistics, communicate with them more effectively than if you are trying to communicate with your delivery, with your logistics only. They're the backbone. This is an interesting time to be. So some may completely shut down operations. Understand their procedures. What are their safety procedures in their warehouses. You want to know whether staff are keeping safe distances away from each other, what their hygiene levels are. You need to get that kind of information. Now, proactive 3PL companies would have communicated that to you. And if you're not getting that line of communication from your 3PL companies, well, now would be a good time to consider switching. The other point I want to make is ensure your warehouse staff are safe. I've repeated that initially, but it is just like you check your 3PL. Their health is absolutely important. So if you do not have the necessary, safety, gear for them to use, shut down your operations. It's just that simple. you need to create the safest environment for those guys. They're at the front line of this. This is a physical virus, and they're handling your physical goods. So your warehousing team, your warehouse should be hygienic. Get it deep cleaned. Communicate that with your customers. Now's the time for uttermost cleanliness. Now's the time for protecting everybody, protecting yourself. Deep clean your entire office, to be honest. So the other is reach out to all service providers and see if you can secure any payment holidays. So if you're struggling cash flow wise, e-commerce, retail, physical products, very slim margin business. That's why we need to do a lot of the time at scale to make it make sense. Some of you, might only have cash flow for the next month or two, maybe 3 maximum. So you want to ensure that you look at your biggest cost, reach out to them and say, hey, can we have payment holidays? Especially if your operations are, if you've decided you're no longer going to be dispatching, then you need to look back and see, what are the fixed costs, what are the recurring costs we can really, cut down on. There's no harm in actually trying to, see if you can save money. This is not because you're trying to make a profit. This is trying to preserve your business, and they also might be trying to preserve their businesses, and they might be doing the same. So it might be a trickle down effect. There is no harm in trying. Some software companies are moving out from fixed 12-month contracts to month-to-month contracts now. I've seen that, and these are SaaS companies. So definitely look at those expenses and see if you could get potential rebates, or if you could get potential, payment holidays. Because at the end of the day, if you keep paying and you're in a position where you're not able to function as a business, they lose in the long term. So try and explain your situation. Next point is it is not business as usual. So be empathetic in all of your communications. Empathy is so important. Humanization is so important. So jump on social media. It's not like, those are my scheduled posts we've put on social media. That's what we're going to write by. I got so irritated when I got into my Instagram feed and I saw some so-called influencers or and celebrities that had scheduled posts, and they were so out of touch with their content, with what is actually going on. So look at those, your scheduled communications with your customers, and see, is this really in tune with what is going on now? And let's just dial down. It's just like on the podcast, I'm sort of pulling out from just posting typical podcast scheduled stuff, and I'm trying to get on top of, to make sense out of the situation and try and empathize with other people in the industry going through this. And that's why you're even listening or watching this now. It's a very this has never happened in an entire generation. It's never so it's unique to this time. We're incredibly privileged in a way to be part of history, and we only hope that we come through this as one. So another point I wanted to make is stay abreast on grants, loans, and support from the government. Lots of governments are essentially they want to preserve the integrity of the economy, and they're bailing different kinds of businesses out. There were announcements in the UK about small business loans, grants, and the like. So look out for that. Talk with your accountants. Your accountants are your best friends now, to see how you can essentially get hold of those opportunities and grants. They may as well save your business, help you with your fixed costs, to keep your treasured assets, which are your employees, to be honest. So yeah, look out for those grants. There's no harm in checking this out. Yeah, then also Facebook announced $100 million grant. Check it out. I'm going to put another podcast around, all the, shall I say, the details of the Facebook $100 million grants. That would be quite interesting to see how that goes. Yeah, so there's a statement I saw from Adweek, the magazine. It's like coronavirus crisis has afforded brands a rare opportunity to show their human side. This is my son. Hey, Mickey. But in giving out freebies, they risk looking opportunistic. So don't seize this as a cheap marketing opportunity. It's not a cheap marketing opportunity. It's not a stab at trying to get attention, more or less. What you really want to do is use this opportunity to be human. Okay, I'm going to just shut the door. So this is another thing about the whole COVID thing, which is like working from home. You have a 2-year-old, have a 3-year-old, and he will sometimes just come in. But yeah, it's time to be human. It's time to humanize yourself, but don't be opportunistic. All right. That's it for now for this episode. I will be regularly publishing episodes over this strange time, this challenging time. But I know, as in, we're going to look at this 12 months ahead and be like, damn, did we overreact? Or damn, we went through it, we came through it. So let's be positive, and most especially, let's be safe. So wash your hands, folks. Don't touch your eyes, nose, mouth. And be safe. Social distancing, is a norm now, and let's just enjoy this opportunity. Do stay tuned, and thank you. Bye bye.